All right, this is a real interesting one because, you know, when you're a busy company, you're an entrepreneur, you're a corporate outfit, and, there's that whole thing that we've fallen into, that classic one-stop shop. I want one person to be able to do this, this, and this, or I want one agency to do this, that, and the other. And then on the flip side, what we're told as service providers sometimes is the more, feathers that you have there in your cap, the better and all the rest of it. But
Mm.
you have specifically said when sort of asking the questions of a potential AdWords consultant, agency, or manager to ask, do you also provide SEO, websites, social media, and other marketing services? Where were you coming from with that?
Mm. Yeah, indeed. So when often people will ask me if there's other stuff I do. So things like, do you run Bing campaigns? Do you run Amazon campaigns and stuff like that? And my response is always, well, are you maxed out with AdWords yet? Have you got everything going flat out, accelerated delivery, unlimited daily budgets, absolutely maxing out, and you can't spend as much money as you would like to spend on Google AdWords? Are you at that point yet? And nobody's ever said yes,
Hmm.
because coming from the perspective of the great one of the great points of the seven habits was beginning with the end in mind. And
Dr.
it,
Stephen Covey.
yeah, absolutely, fabulous book to read if people haven't. And this is one of the seven habits, is begin with the end in mind. And it took me several years to get to this point of doing this stuff on a daily basis, to come to the realization that, if I had the 100% perfect AdWords campaign, what would it actually look like?
Mm.
You know? So I asked myself that question and I thought, well, okay, I would be shoveling as much money into AdWords as I could to fulfill the demands of the spend, and it would be delivering 100% impression share, 100% click-through rate, quality scores of 10 on every keyword, 100% conversion rate, and all
Mm.
these metrics that we look at and see. And I wouldn't be able to shovel money in as fast as Google. I'd be shoveling it in faster than they could take it out. you
Mm,
know
mm, mm, mm.
and I didn't get to that realization until I'd been doing this for I think about 5 years.
Wow.
And the reason it happened was because I was working with a lead gen client who'd got an absolutely brilliant website which converted like crazy. Excuse me. He was in a very hungry marketplace. Funnily enough, the work from home marketplace, which a
Mm, mm,
lot
mm.
of people have got a lot of interest in, which is completely understandable. And we could not spend as much, anywhere near as much as we wanted to spend. We'd got it absolutely maxed out. It took a while to get it to that point,
Sure.
and I was shoveling hundreds and thousands of keywords into it on a weekly basis. Um, but the point was that we'd got this thing going so fast and so flat out, and we couldn't spend any more on it. I realised this was the point that I was at. How can I take the brakes off this thing? What comes to mind in this scenario is what's called the theory of constraints, which
Okay.
is, what is the thing that is stopping me from taking this thing further?
Mm,
Um,
mm.
what you've got to look at is the bottleneck in your system. What is the thing that is constraining me from taking this further? If you look at a thing like a computer, the bottleneck in your computer is your hard drive.
Mm,
It's the
mm, mm, mm,
slowest
mm,
thing in
mm,
your
mm,
machine
mm.
because it's physical. Everything else is solid state. Um, Again, my IT background um, is kind of involved in this because I used to work for computer systems manufacturers, and we were aware of these bottlenecks. We had to overcome them. To be able to make applications run faster, you'd got to be able to bolt on an APU, an auxiliary processing unit. That's only going to work if the code knows about it and can exploit it. You see, so you've got to be aware of the theory of the constraints and the bottlenecks. So we're trying to take all the brakes off whilst making profit, whilst spending as much money as we can and getting back as much as we can. And that is what the whole thing is about. This is the perfect campaign. So how do we achieve that? And when I ask the question, are you maxed out with AdWords? I never get told yes, and therefore,
Really?
yeah.
So after all these years, no
Yeah.
one said, "Hey, look, we're
No, and
maxed out."
it's only at that point that we could say, well, what, we can't buy any more clicks on Google now. Well, we've got to look at alternative channels. We've got to look at extra ways to get clicks now. So let's look at Bing. Let's look
Yeah,
at Amazon. Let's look at all these shopping comparison sites. Who cares?
yeah.
We will go after those things, but it's only appropriate to do that when you've got the AdWords side of things maxed out, because if you can make AdWords work, it's profitably, it's very likely that all the other things will be straightforward after that, because AdWords is the most challenging.
And so I suppose not even the fine line for the agency, the consultant, the manager, where they need to stand firm, but they also need to explain why they're standing firm is therefore when they receive an initial job spec. I mean, I've spoken to you about this before, in my gig with social media and digital marketing and things. Yeah, I saw it the other day. Something came out saying, we are looking for this digital market. And I said, great, I have a look, read down. They said, you've got to be an exceptional copywriter. So I thought, wow, exceptional copywriter, that's a gift in itself. And it says, also got to be very knowledgeable of the social media channels. And I thought, also got to know Google Analytics. And I thought, whoa,
That's huge in its own right.
Because it's got to be one of these things that I do exceptionally well, and then I can serve a client properly. So is it important, therefore, you strongly urge and encourage the AdWords managers and consultants, even though they know that technically speaking there could be a bigger bit of business, that they actually even go so far as to say to the prospect, look, I think you're asking maybe too much of this particular assignment by asking me to do all these other different things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, and if you look at common job websites, and you look at the roles and responsibilities that they're expecting people to fulfill in this job capacity of PPC manager. Oh yeah, you've got to do analytics as well and write copy and all that stuff that you just mentioned. It's ridiculous to be able to think that you can be a complete master of AdWords and a complete master of analytics and a world-class copywriter. You can't do all that stuff. What you're looking at is a team. What you're looking at is a whole complete organization that has heads in it. You're looking at an org chart of a business, and the org chart has got the CIO at the top, and then he's got the systems manager, and then he's got the network manager, and then he's got maybe the bunch of other things. The guy at the top has people doing all those things. He does not do all those things. The CIO, the Chief Information Officer, does not do all those things. In my capacity before as the IT manager, or as the information services manager, which I was, in a European capacity, I had people who were highly skilled at server builds and management, and client interfacing and management and troubleshooting, and help desk management, and first time fix on the phone and escalation and all those things. I had a team of people doing all that stuff. I didn't do all that. I didn't start with, and you need to do some of all that stuff to start with, to give you an idea of what's involved.
Yeah. Indeed.
Which is why I always say you've got to have a real good understanding of AdWords and PPC, even if you don't want to do it yourself any longer and you want to outsource it, and you need to outsource it. You've still got to have a healthy appreciation of it, and have come up through it and done some of it, so you understand the issues. But in the situation of being able to do, expected to do analytics and all those other things, then no, you can't be a total master of AdWords and a total master of analytics and all those other things. You just can't do it.
Yeah, very interesting thing you've just said when it comes to being a master of mastery. I remember Brendan Bashar teaching once. He says, imagine you're in that open field and you start digging. So you're digging the AdWords part of the field now, and then after a little while someone says, look, a bit of SEO, you actually physically move away from what you've been digging for AdWords. That stops.
That's a
And
good
then you'll be
point.
starting from the top with your SEO now, and you're
Yep.
starting there again. And
Yep.
then someone will say, oh, I've actually heard this Pinterest is a pretty good gig. So you walk to another part of the field. So
Yeah.
you'd started digging with the AdWords, that stopped.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you've done your SEO, and now you've moved over to the social.
Yeah.
And that mastery, because I just think this is probably your strength. You're able to sort of say, crumbs, this was working last week, and now it's not working now. And that'll only happen if you keep digging in the same place.
Yes, quite so. Yeah, I mean, what you're describing there, very good analogy, is you need somebody who has got the strategic overview of all these things, and probably got some tactical experience of all of them, but doesn't really go down deep into, can't really go down deep into all of them. So, again, as the information services manager, as I was, then I wouldn't expect to be asked to build a server. I've got a technician who I've hired to do that. You can learn skills, you can get taught skills, you can teach skills, but you can't teach culture or instinct or DNA. That's just part of you as a human being. And if you'll sit in front of a screen and never understand how numbers work, or never have curiosity about what happens if I do this, then you're just not going to grow into where you need to be able to grow to really make this stuff work.
Fantastic.
So you've absolutely got to come at it from the perspective of, here's my org chart, I'm at the top, and here are all these people underneath me who do all these operational pieces, and those operational pieces are the SEO, are the Twitter, are the
websites,
Pinterest,
landing
or
pages,
the websites, or the conversion rate optimization. Whole discipline in its own right. Strategically, I've got to understand how all those pieces integrate. I'm as the strategic manager of the whole thing, I'm a systems integrator. I connect this to this to this to this, and we see that we put some money in and we get more money out. That's the whole point.
Fantastic. All right. Well, that was a really good one there about sort of avoiding the sort of easy way of looking for that one-stop shop, and on the flip side of the manager and the consultant, in a bid to want to really get the work and start the relationship, saying, yes, I can do all these things.
You've got to prioritize things, and the most important thing is to be able to buy traffic on demand, measure it, and see what it does. And AdWords is the only thing that can do that. The SEO thing, that's a longer term thing, and in some areas of the work I do with e-commerce and stuff, it's just going away, because you'll never be able to get on the page because there's too much other paid stuff on there. All this paid stuff is squeezing all the e-commerce type stuff, organic links and whatnot. It's all going.
But isn't it baffling though, still, Dia, that companies will go out and look for a quote unquote SEO specialist and give them money, whereas what AdWords are all about is you're saying, look, give us the brass, give us the money, and we'll do this, this, and this, so you come out on top. Whereas someone will give someone a SEO specialist, say, here you go, just get me to the top of the search engines organically and la-di-da-di.
There's a whole section in my book about that whole SEO versus AdWords, myth, and however else you want to call it. The thing is that, plainly speaking, there's no such thing as free clicks. People talk about the bandy around, SEO, free clicks, yada yada. Well, actually, no, it's complete tosh, really, because to get these rankings, you've got to expend time, energy, money, effort, outsourcing, tools, subscriptions, you name it. This stuff is not free. What's worse, infinitely worse, is the fact that you have got no clue. Nobody has got any clue whatsoever how much a click on an organic rank cost. You never be able to compute that, ever. Nobody can, right? Whereas with paid advertising, you've got your ad shown 100 times, 100 impressions, you got one click, it's a 1% click-through rate, it costs you £5 or
Yeah.
$10 or
Mm.
$2.60 or whatever. You know precisely how much a click cost. And then what's even better is you know what it converts to the next step in your sales process, and the next step, and the next step. And if you sell something, you know how much you earned.
Well, as I said to you before, and we talked about this before, the wonderful Keith Cunningham out in Austin there, he says anybody who doesn't want to measure doesn't want to be held accountable.
Yeah, absolutely.
And,
Yeah.
and I think that sort of, that's in line with where some of this organic stuff, and as you know, I'm a social
Yeah.
media guy, but
Yeah.
I'm all about still saying, you need to lose this whole organic mindset here, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to pay someone to keep posting all these wonderful comments and things for you,
Hmm.
and you've
Yeah.
got no idea,
What comes back?
what comes back at all.
Yeah, and what's the benefit of it all? Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, DR, this was a great one. And I thought this was really important for us to spend some time on this, just to sort of offer clarity on both sides. And we're going to keep going with the nitty gritty in the next one, because we're going to talk about how do you charge for your work? And yes, I'm going to back you into a corner, mister, and I'm going to ask, how do you charge for your work, and how you came to that conclusion? And then it just allows two parties coming together to decide the best
Yeah.
way financially to put this together. So
That's
thanks
a
for this.
great question. I look forward very much to answering that one.
Okay, you got it.